Y'all, it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Sohailla Digsby, who's one of our all-time favorite presenters. I know she is one of y'all's favorites as well, too. Sohailla, we always learn so much from her, and she makes it sound so easy. And we know it's not necessarily easy, but it is simple, and she is going to help us understand that more tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sohailla Digsby.
All right. Thank y'all. Well, I always, and this is also my 6th year doing Team Lean too, so I'm always amazed and pleased and proud to see the people who make it over the Valentine's Day hump, because that's traditionally over the past 6 years, only the diehards pass the chocolate test. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there and making progress, and even if there's some weeks where your progress isn't as much as you like, knowing that keeping on this journey in the big picture is still really worthwhile, even if it has a week or two. Has anybody hit any plateaus here and there? And they get frustrating, but there are some things that you can do to improve that. And one of those that she just mentioned is weight training. If you're not doing that yet, that's something you can add that really, it may make the scale go up 1 or 2 pounds of muscle, but muscle is not fluffy and it looks really nice in your clothes. Okay, so even if it has 1 pound up on the scale, and I know Team Lean, the competitive people are like, well, then I don't want it. And I'm like, you might, but you could wait till April 1st to start weight training if you're really worried about gaining muscle mass. But this is a glob of fat that I love to show. This is 5 pounds, and it's nice and jiggly and all that good stuff. And does anybody recognize this? Okay, but that's 5 pounds. So raise your hand if you've lost 5 pounds with Team Lean. Awesome. Raise your hand if you've lost 2 of these. 10 pounds, okay? Congratulations. What about 15? That's a lot, y'all. And some people are like, well, I only lost 1 pound. 5 of those single pounds gains adds up to this much. That's a lot. So really, let's give everybody a hand for all their progress they've made so far. And for some people, it comes off all in one section and they can see it immediately. And for some people, it comes off everywhere real slightly, and then it has to take a couple more pounds for it to be more visible in places. But just keep on keeping on, and you'll be able to tell, like she said, the fluorescent mirrors in those rooms don't lie, do they? Okay, well, I'm going to give you guys a couple practical things as we go. I know you've had some other presenters who have given you some of this information, and I always like to be the one to make sure you're taking it all in and really swallowing it. And I can't see some of your faces, so if you're giving me dirty looks, it won't work because the light is so bright, and I love to see your faces, so I may have to lean in every once in a while. But the reason we picked this seminar a couple years ago, last year we added this type of seminar, is because a lot of people do a lot of great things January through March, and then the real world soaks in and they realize, I can't keep doing this, or how am I going to do this, and what about when the holidays come, and what about 4th of July, and that's not what we usually do, and that's not what we usually eat, and all those things happen, and people go back to where they started, and they come back and join us the next year in January. And we don't mind you doing that, coming back, but we do want you to have ongoing success, and we want this to be a lifestyle that sticks with you. We want this today to be the heaviest you'll ever be in all of your life, really and truly. And I've seen that happen with a handful of people over the years, and I'm sure there's more than a handful, but just that I happen to run into that say, hey, that stuck and here I am. And I think sometimes some people say, well, because of my family genetics and stuff, I know this isn't realistic or whatever. But no, genetics does play into it, and we're not all going to look the same in the end of our weight loss journey. But I always say, well, if I came to your house and I flung open the cabinets, and if I dug through your purse and opened the drawer at work that's where your snacks are, I would know why it is where we are, right? And so a lot of it will be genetics, but most of it is what is in our reach and accessible to our mouth, okay? So that is the biggest piece of it. So just keep in mind that some of us will tend to put it on quicker, and some of us will tend to be bouncy and fidgety and burn calories faster and all those things, but in the big picture, it really has so much to do about what we put in our mouth. How many of you guys have exercised consistently? That's awesome, and still doing it. That's really great. And you know, when you're doing that, that makes a huge, huge difference, okay? And I'm a fitness instructor. I have done that for 17 years now, as long as I've been a dietitian. So I love exercise as much as I love nutrition, but if I'm real honest with you, I know one of them weighs heavier in. Which one is it? Ooh.
The exercise person told
Oh, and that's what I guess we're biased.
Sorry. Yeah, that's
I guess, of course, we're biased. Well, here's how I'll describe it. I teach Zumba. So let's say you came to my Zumba class and we worked out as hard as we possibly could, and you burned a good 500, 400 calories in that hour, giving it all you had. And then on the way home, McDonald's called your name. And you swung through, and in 5 minutes you ate 950 calories. So you can pick which one you think is more important, but I'll just tell you, it took an hour to burn it, and it took 5 minutes to double it, okay, almost. So just know that in the big scheme, one of them is usually easier for one person than the other. So some of y'all will be like, I have exercise down, but nutrition's really hard, and vice versa. But in the end, you could, and I'm not ever suggesting you go without exercise, but you could not exercise for a week and change your eating and still lose weight. But if you exercised and didn't change your eating, you may not. Okay, so in the big scheme, we won't fight it out, which is most important. I'm a little biased, possibly, but I do love both. But just keep in mind that if you've picked one part of that journey and you've embraced it and you've gotten really good at it, be so proud of yourself. But if you haven't embraced the other, this is the time to do it, okay? So don't just do one and not the other. I leave the gym often, seeing people that leave my class with their hair matted to their head, and they're like, I'm on top of the world. My heart rate monitor said that I burned 640 calories. And then on their way out, they go by Moe's and get a cheese dip, 1,000 calories with no chips, just if they drank it, which you know they didn't. And that's it. And their whole 3 days of workouts, almost 2 days of workouts. So I want you to work out, but I want you to make it count and give it your best, and then watch what you put in your mouth to make up the difference, to make up the big scheme, okay? So being realistic, though, some people will say, okay, I've been exercising 5 days a week. Am I going to have to do that forever? What do y'all think? Every answer that I've asked has been a fight it out amongst yourselves. But those are good questions, because the best way, somebody said, if I'm doing an hour now and I have 40 pounds on me still to lose, let's say, then when you come back 3 months later and those 40 pounds are gone, do you think it'll take you an hour to burn those same number of calories? No, because it'll be easier. Because A, you're more fit because you've been doing it more often. B, you don't have that weight to struggle with. And so yes, you'll still have to exercise because your heart needs that, and we all need to be active, but maybe not as long, right? And you might be able to do 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there, and you might find that you're on your feet more often because you're more comfortable getting up and down, and you're not conserving those calories, because the research shows that obesity is one of the main conserver of calories. Just because it's difficult to move around and pop up and down sometimes, that we conserve calories because we'd rather not bother. Does that make sense? And as you know, if you get leaner and leaner, it's easier and easier to do things, and then you're more likely to do it. Okay? So all that to say is an active lifestyle is what you'll need to maintain weight loss. And so don't decide that one day me and the gym are going to break up and it's going to be all over. And it doesn't have to be the gym. It can be other active lifestyle ways, but you'll need to embrace that. That's going to need to be part of life for the long term. And depending on how much you eat, of course, and what sort of things you eat, that'll make a big difference on how much time you spend there. Okay? But to promise not to do a thing is the surest way in the world to make a body want to go and do that very thing. Has anybody found that to be the case? I swear I will never eat blank, and then on the second day it's like calling your name in your sleep, wherever you go. So I really like to take the balanced approach, which encourages you to, yes, think of this as a lifetime. So does that mean you'll never have cake on your birthday ever again? No, that's just crazy. But does that mean if you're used to having an all-day splurge on your birthday and 2 pieces of cake with 4 scoops of ice cream, if those are your normal birthday celebrations, then please don't do that ever again, But that was a bad idea in the first place, and you know that. So now it'll be, okay, I still have birthday cake, but if I end up having 4 parties, one at church, I don't have a party cake at every party. Okay, I make the decision that, okay, well, I had my birthday at lunch, so I don't really have to go there again this dinner, but thank you for the party, I'll have a bite of the cake or whatever. But thinking about it in a balanced perspective instead of the, I'm never going to do that, because you know what that makes you want to do, right? So tonight, as we go on, we're just talking about everyday practical things, and it might almost seem obvious, but a lot of times we just need to hear some of those reminders so that we can actually be practical and do this for real, because there's all sorts of research and real great information out there. But if it's not practical and we can't do anything with it after 3 months or 4 months when we feel tired of doing the same thing, then we won't succeed for as long. So that's what I'm here to give you today. Okay? So think about what you're eating on a typical day. Okay? A lot of times what we do to get ourselves stuck in a rut is we find what we think works and we stay there. And we eat the very same thing. Who kind of tends to eat the very same thing for at least 2 out of 3 meals? Okay? And that's worked. And I have seen in my years of consulting one-on-one, I've seen some really interesting things that bodies do when they get bored. I've seen people eat, I mean, this one lady, I remember she ate the most fabulous salad, like with sliced hearts of palm and artichokes and all these things that nobody puts on their garden salads. And I thought, really? She does that every day and all these good things, and she still was stuck. And her body just got sick of it. And after a while, your metabolism adjusts to things and you got to spice it up. So if you've been eating the very same thing all the time, at least one meal doing that, that's not that big of a deal. But doing it at all meals, your body kind of gets really used to what to expect, and it's a good thing to mix it up sometimes. So start thinking outside of your normal thing. So let's say, for example, you have oatmeal and coffee for breakfast, the famous turkey sandwich that people eat when they're dieting, and the famous grilled chicken for the 7th night this week that people think they have to only eat chicken with a vegetable, and that's all, or whatever it is. That's a lot of times what I hear, and that doesn't last that long for people because that's boring after a while. And so I want you to think through with me what things you can continue to do so that you don't get bored and give up on this whole thing, because you've made it so far that you don't want to do that, right? So I'm here to bring a little spice to it for you, okay? But if you're thinking, okay, food used to be something I liked and now it's just and I'm just going to push through, you can still like food and your taste buds will even adjust. You know, if you grew up drinking whole milk or 2% milk and then you switch to skim, like I will get physically sick if I drink some of that heavier stuff. The other day I went to a pizza place and had one slice of pizza where they used whole milk cheese pizza, and I was sick. And I thought, I went up and asked them afterward, I was like, do you guys not use part skim mozzarella? I didn't even know there was anybody that did that. And they're like, no. And I was like I feel sick. I can only finish half of a piece. But it used to be that kind of stuff didn't bother me. And you get to a point where your body kind of starts to repel some of those things. And that's a good sign, because that means your body's kind of happy doing some good things. So maybe you'll get to the point where, you know, you eat something fried and your tummy's like, don't ever do that again to me. You know, different things like that. So those could be protective and helpful. But at the same time, I don't want you to just do the same old every day. Does anybody need some spice to their dining? Okay, we'll try to do that with you today. So one thing to think about is it realistic? I really don't want you to try to do something you know you cannot do past March 30th. I don't want you to get stuck doing something that you hate so bad. Okay, if you hate exercise, please try something else. There's so many different things out there. You might be that person that, you know, I mean, I had this one friend who'd never really exercised until she got into tennis, and now she like competes and wears the little dress and lost lots of weight and all this stuff, and she's so in it, and she's not in it for the weight anymore. She's in it because the tennis she loves it. So there might be something out there that you really love, and you might need to try some different things. So, you know, don't just grovel in the awful of it. Think of something else and different. And, you know, as a Zumba instructor, there are people there that go from Y to Y to Y to Y on Saturday. It's kind of insane. Like morning Zumba to mid-morning Zumba to afternoon Zumba and see you at the evening Zumba. But they have found a joy, and they're addicted to something that's actually good for them, which 4 times a day could be extreme, which some of them are. But if you're on a special diet, if you call this a diet, if you feel like you're on a restriction, then this might not last for a long, long time for you. You may have to say, you know, if you're saying, I just can't wait till this is over so I can just go back to my normal. If you know that's what you're saying, you got to have a little pep talk with yourself and be like, you know what? This isn't why I've worked so hard for 6 weeks. This is the real world. So yes, I can have those again. Yes, I can have a hamburger again, but I probably will have it at home where I can buy lean meat. Okay? Instead of just regularly out places where they put the fattiest, cheapest stuff filled with preservatives. So yeah, maybe I won't have that again, except for very rare occasions, but I'll still have hamburger. I'll just have it in a controlled environment. Does that make sense? Or maybe if white bread is your favorite thing in the world and you go to Carrabba's and you're like, this is awesome, you know. Well, maybe you'll have it again, but you'll have it in a very controlled setting where you don't have that loaf of bread or that basket of chips or whatever it is that's so inviting. You can still have those, but you have them with a responsible adult friend who would not let you eat the whole basket. With your Team Lean team who would say, stop that. You know, somebody that cares enough to do it. I guess this little, and in transferring from my computer to this computer, there's always just a curious little fun thing that happens. So today, it's the split of the word. Can you see yourself doing this the rest of your life, is what that's saying. So I want you to think, what could you do to alter what you're doing a little bit to make it more realistic for the rest of your life? Okay, something that you can just really buy into. So my hope is that you're not just jumping from one fad to the next and hearing what one neighbor said and trying that until you get sick of that and then trying what the next neighbor said. And I see that so often, so I'm saying that like it's funny, but it's really what I see all the time. Okay, this is funny. I'm taking you off of 3 things: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, I'm making this point because I do not like my nutrition participants or clients or patients to ever feel like if I'm so hungry that I feel like I'm going to die, I'm doing this right. I've heard people say that before. And that's really not how you're supposed to live. How long do you think you'll last on that? Not very long. And some research that I love that I read again recently is it showed a bunch of people. I'm just going to say it in really easy layman's terms, but there's a bunch of people, and these people are told they can eat as much as they like on top of what they're eating from the fruit and vegetable group. And these people are told that they can't do that. They just need to eat this controlled amount. But these people actually eat a pound more of food a day, which sounds like a lot, but if you've ever weighed a big tomato or a big apple, that's about a pound. So it's not that much more volume, but in your tummy, it feels like more volume. And it could be a serving or 2 of fruit and vegetables, and that's enough to make your tummy feel good and heavy, and it feels satisfying inside. So if you double up on your veggie servings, that will make a big difference. Or if you have a piece of fruit or veggie in the evening, a real high fiber one, and look up the fiber. A lot of times if it starts with a P, like pear, prunes, a lot of those have higher fibers for whatever reason on the fruits. Those are some good ones to lean towards. They make you feel like there's weight in your belly, and that makes you feel not starving. So it's nice to not feel starving. Or if you're eating a really wimpy breakfast, which is what a lot of people are doing because they want to start good. They want to start off good and not overdo their calories in the morning, then the rest of the day their body's just like, feed me, feed me, feed me. And I'm sending you all these alerts that make you want to do crazy things like open packages you haven't opened in a while and walk over to that vending machine and drive through that place. If you're so hungry because you're eating wimpy little breakfasts and you're not eating enough fiber and heavy fruits and vegetables to fill your belly up with water and fiber, then you're going to have that hunger alert going off. And y'all know when that hunger alert goes off, you do crazy things. Does anybody do crazy things when the hunger alert goes off? Your family does not like you when the hunger alert goes off. Your boss sends you away from work that needs to be done to go get lunch or dinner. Okay, it's bad to stay in a state of hunger for lots of reasons. So, but there's things we can do about that besides just pout that we're not allowed to eat because we're on a diet. We need to find foods that are filling that can do that, and lots of fruits and vegetables do that. So I want to encourage you to think about that. So we're not going to avoid breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? So just as a reminder, what really works, and I believe I said this at the first seminar that Team Lean opened up with, if you guys were here, that the National Weight Control Registry studies show people who have lost 30 pounds or more and kept it off for more than a year. Is that what you guys are all going to do? Yes. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Here's what success is associated with, okay? Circle this on your slide if you need to. Eating breakfast, okay? If you're not doing that yet, these people, very rarely do people keep 30 pounds off after a year. This is good news. So these people are eating breakfast. They're exercising consistently, which means not just when they feel like it, but like putting it on their calendar and getting a partner and joining a class or something where it's consistent. Consistent eating patterns, which means your body's metabolism isn't always in flux. Am I going to starve today or am I going to be overfed today? Because if you do one, you usually overdo the other the next day. And it's always confused, so your metabolism's always conserving those calories. But if you tell your body, every day you get breakfast, every day you get lunch, every day you get a good, solid, healthy snack, every day you get a good, solid, healthy dinner, then your body likes that and it feels consistent, it feels consistently nourished, and the metabolism works more efficiently. Does that make sense? I mean, it really just does. If you go all night without eating and then you don't eat breakfast, your body's like, okay, where are we here? Are we in America? Is there food? Are we in a place where, you know, I mean, your cells are made to be conservative for their life's sake, right? So you want to be consistent. 24 calories percent from fat. Now, I don't want anybody to go calculating everything crazy. That's just showing that a high fat or a low fat isn't where it was at. This is a low to moderate fat percentage. So that's just the point I'm making on that. Keeping food and weight records. How many of you have done that? How many of you are still doing that? Okay, good, good. If you're doing it, you're probably succeeding more than you would if you weren't, and maybe more than the people on your team who aren't. So if you guys want to win, get your whole team to keep records and exchange them at the end of every week so they can highlight the ones they think you should do better on because they want to win. Wouldn't you love that? That's so encouraging. Well, whatever. If you're competitive, your team will be like, we're doing that. And you guys are all sending it to me. Whoever's the most competitive will be the checker offer, okay? And no single diet program emerges the best. So there's not one way, if you're that competitive person, that all your team has to eat just like you. That's not the way it is either. This is what I wanted you to know about whether or not you think exercise plays into it. There was no difference in weight loss based on the type of diet at the 1-year point. So let's say the Atkins whatever or the low carb or this or that gets you off to a quicker start. Usually by the year point, people kind of level out because they get sick of what they were doing and they change it up a little bit. So there's usually not something that everybody stays with for so long. At 6 months, weight loss tends to stop or slow down regardless of the type of diet. Now don't let that discourage you if you have a long way to go. That's mostly because most people don't have too much longer to go than losing 1 to 2 pounds for 6 months. Okay, I think that's mostly why. Exercise alone showed no weight loss at 12 months. This is the piece of research that makes me think nutrition is so important because you know what happens? Your metabolism adjusts to that exercise and you start eating more because you're more active. So you still have to eat carefully. You can eat more volume but not more calories. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference? Okay, and the rate of weight regain is slower with professional counseling. That's people like me. People who have an RD behind their name are the only ones you should take nutritional personalized information from. Please, RD, LD in the state of Georgia, okay? Not a health food store attendant who doesn't know your history. Okay, they could give you some good information, but if they don't know your history, they could give you opposite of what you need. And be careful, even you know, doctors will tell you, if they're honest, that they don't have any nutrition training and different things like that. So you have to be really careful who you get that information from. And I do see clients, non-members and members at the Evans Y, where I'm located out of. If you guys are interested, if you need some help or if you get stuck, please come see me. I'd love to talk with you, or just let me know afterward and I'll get your number. Okay? Now, I know y'all had a whole session on dining out, so I'm not going to go through all those slides. Who missed the dining out session? Raise your hand. Just a couple of you. Good. So you guys are going to know all the answers to all my questions, right? I heard it was a good seminar, so let me just go over a few things. I have to bring this up on eating in the everyday real world because most of what gets people in trouble of eating in the everyday real world doesn't happen at their breakfast and dinner table. Most of it happens at a restaurant or at a party at Christmas or something like that. Would y'all say that's true? I mean, I never eat the volume or the calories that I would eat at a restaurant at home. I would have to pile up all that healthy food so high on my plate, and they might put like a half a stick of butter on my fish that I would never use in like 3 months at my house, okay? And so you just need to think about how the chef isn't concerned about your waistline. I mean, I've waited tables for a long time. They don't really sometimes even care if it's light or full fat. They just say, get it out to the table. It's ranch. They'll be happy. Okay, so if you're not responsible for yourself at a restaurant, you have to be a little bit assertive, sometimes potentially annoying. And I always tell people, just start with, are you feeling patient today, server Brad? And if they say, oh, then you're like, oh, good, because I'm working on my diet and I'm doing so good. You'd be so proud. And so here's what I'd like for you to make sure happens when my ranch dressing comes out, or just a couple things. And you know, if you ask them, are you feeling patient, that immediately makes them sure that they are on their best behavior with you, and that's a sweet way to do it without being sassy. Do you guys think that might work? Yeah. So you try that in a restaurant if you do restaurants fairly often. Do you guys feel like you need to clean your plate at a restaurant? Or you paid extra for it more than you would at home, so you might want to finish it. Or maybe you ate the basket of chips at the Mexican restaurant and then your food comes and you realize you've already consumed more than a dinner's calories, so what do you do? What do you do? You box the whole thing up, you don't even put your fork in it once, right? And you tell everybody at the table, it's not that I'm not eating, it's that I already ate. I just ate from one food group and that was whoops. I did have some salsa, so that was good. But overall, you know, things like that, that's what you have to do. This is the everyday eating in the real world. When you make that mistake, I mean, I will make that mistake on the really yummy bread that's hot, so hot you can barely touch it, but you just want to eat it. And then you're too hungry when you get there, which is a bad call. my husband's always like, why are you eating an apple? We're on the way to a nice date. And I'm like, so I can have a nice date and not eat the whole basket of bread when I get there, because this is just going to take that edge off so I can be pleasant and not be like fighting myself the whole time. And so sometimes it's worth it to spoil your meal just a little bit on the way to a restaurant or to a Christmas party or whatever it may be that gets you into trouble. Okay? At a restaurant, you don't have to burn calories cooking. You don't even have to walk in the restaurant. You can just sit in your car. Okay? You don't burn a calorie. You don't have to go to the grocery store and walk down the aisle. So there's lots of reasons besides just the great tips that you already got about restaurants. So a lot of times the best dining out advice is to do it less frequently. Not just to do it well, which is important, to be careful and make all those good choices that you learned at the dining out session, but also to do it less frequently, because even when you do it well, it's probably more calories than you might have taken in at home. Would you guys agree with that? Okay, so be careful about that. And sometimes you're more relaxed, which I like that you get to relax at a restaurant, but sometimes we get too relaxed, and then we come home sorry. And then we think, oh, it's going to take me a whole week at the gym to undo that. Has anybody ever been there? Okay. All right, so good deals. Pass up the good deals, y'all. Save the 17 cents. Okay? It'll end up going on medical bills later if you keep it. Okay? It'll go into cholesterol medication and all that good stuff. Okay? So don't ever be tempted to buy the bigger drink or the bigger fry because it's only this much more, unless you're splitting it among your whole 16 people family for a fry. Okay? You got to share those fries like that. Okay? A Center of Science in the Public Interest, which is a great website, by the way, cspi.net. It's very user-friendly, and they have hilarious articles that are borderline just kind of funny and sometimes a little bit crude about nutrition. They talk about like really bad food in a really funny way. It might hurt your feelings if you like some of those really bad foods, but it's still funny and you'll laugh. CSPI.net, and you can also order a $10 a year. It's like a thin magazine, but it comes, I think it's every other month, and it has fun, good, easy to understand nutrition information. So if you want nutrition information, that's a good source to get it. It's called Nutrition Action, and you can order it from their website. That's just a little side note for your everyday eating for the real world big picture. Okay, and restaurants are just often bad news for Clean Plate Club members, of which I have resigned. Okay, but I mean, many of us grew up having to clean our plate, and it just stays with you. It's really hard not to. And just remember, the restaurant, the plate wasn't made with you in mind. It was made with advertising and cost maximization and all that stuff in mind. It wasn't made with your nutritional needs in mind, okay? So plan ahead, set out how many times you'll dine out weekly, pack lunches, healthy snacks, all those things, set yourself up for success. Okay, know what you're going to eat when it's there. If it's creamy and it makes your lips feel like you just put on lip gloss, or if you have to wipe your hands a whole bunch while you're eating it, those are just telltale signs that the insides of you are going, please, no more, no more, no more. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you just keep wiping your mouth and your hands and you're thinking, can't wipe this off the inside of me in a minute. Okay, so don't do that. And if it can be put on the side, do it, or even skip it if you know you'll just dump it back on the potato. You know, if it can be put on the side but you dump it all back on. If you know that's going to be you, then just skip it. Avoid it, because sometimes we just have to avoid our temptations and not try to face them. Has anybody learned that over the next few weeks? You don't just face it. You don't just buy all the Valentine's candy and say, I'm bigger than that. And then you realize, no, sometimes we're not. Okay? We're just not. I mean, I'm with you. Reese's looks me in the face and I go, oh, I love you. And it's just ridiculous. So I just can't look it in the face. It's just best for me not to. But there's some foods I could care less that you love, and vice versa. So just don't do the standoff. Just keep them out of reach. Okay? There's a lot of handouts in your slide, a lot of squares in your slide there, in your slides that have fast food information that I'm not going to go over tonight because you've already been over them. They're just a reminder for you. But I just want to remind you that it goes down really, really fast. You can make all of your needs for life in a few fast food meals. All the sodium you'll ever need till you're 100 years old, you can get this week if you ate out every day in fast food. All those things. So that's not the goal, okay? But let me just give you a few reminders. A Wendy's Frosty burns off in 60 minutes of brisk walking after a 60-minute water aerobics class. Okay? Is it worth it? That's the question you have to ask. Now, if Wendy's Frosties are your very favorite thing and you're willing to do that on those special occasions, then do it occasionally. Remember, the word is occasionally, okay? McDonald's selects, and see, the word selects makes me think they're selecting the best nutrition for me. I don't know if that does it to you, but They will burn off if you simply go to the gym for an hour-long, full-intensity spinning class and then go home and mow the lawn for an hour on your feet. Chick-fil-A's chicken sandwich, small fry and a regular Coke will take you 60 minutes to run at an 11.5 mile pace, just kind of a jog. Okay, so you have to decide if these things are worth it. And sometimes they're just not. Okay, so you got to think about that ahead of time. So I'm not going to go through these slides, but you've heard them, and if you weren't here that day, please do review them. This is your chance to catch up on that. I do want to remind you that combo meals, to save the 17 cents, this is like 2,000 calories, 99 grams of fat, and more than a day's worth of sodium. 10 minutes, it's gone. Okay, it's not worth it, y'all. Okay, and be careful, just because it's chicken and fish, which are your healthier choices, doesn't mean they can't fry it up or mayonnaise it up or get it into trouble. So still look at how it's prepared, okay? So let's talk about what else in the everyday world you have on hand that's fast. Because if cooking takes an hour every night, most of us just don't feel like we can do it, right? So what do? Almost every time I cook, I'm making enough for more than that meal, because I have 3 little kids that are always going to be like hanging on me and in my space and calling out spelling homework words and everything else while I'm trying to cook dinner. So I'm going to make it worth my time and spend 5 more minutes making twice as much. Okay? Make it so that it can be frozen, so it can be put in school lunches, so it can be leftovers for tomorrow, making it worth your time. Having some of the veggies and fruits and vegetables and things out that you're chopping up for tonight's salad, go ahead and chop them up for tomorrow's pita to stuff in while you've got the cutting board and the knife dirty. Make it worth your while you're taking the time to do it. Okay? Frozen homemade meals that you prepared for a day like this. Do you guys ever have a day like this? Okay? Tonight, my husband and 3 kids are at baseball practice. And, you know, we're switching off and doing all this stuff. And these are these days where you got to think, how do I set myself up if we all have to be somewhere at this time and we have to have dinner and we're not going to get home until after 8? How are we going to set ourselves up? We got to think of that ahead. Because what's going to happen in the moment? Trouble happens. McDonald's happens. Those things happen. So you got to think of it ahead. You have to have that soup here and there that you can defrost quickly, or whatever it is that everybody can eat wherever they are, or take something on the way. Okay? Frozen dinners are an option. Just be careful, because the sodium is usually what gets you. And a lot of times on frozen dinners, they're like 280 calories. Is that good? What's bad about a 280 calorie frozen dinner? Well, yeah, maybe you haven't eaten since 12 and it's 6:30 or 7 and you eat 280 calories, and guess what's going to happen at 10? You're going to want to brush your teeth, but you're thinking, I can't brush my teeth yet, I'm just going to starve to death. Because that's not enough calories for dinner, unless you've had a big 4 o'clock snack that was something really healthy and solid. Okay? If you're doing that to yourself, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot with your metabolism, and you're frustrating your body and your brain and your taste buds too, probably, okay? So I'm not against those, but put something with it, like a yogurt or a piece of fruit and some vegetables or something like that to add to it, okay? Soup, okay? Soup in a crock pot, love that. Make enough, make a bunch, you know, you can freeze it in a, once it's cool, freeze it in a big freezer bag with a zipper and lay it flat. And you can literally like have a filing system in your freezer. I know somebody who does that. Isn't that cool? Crazy. But at the top you write, you know, black bean soup, next file. And they're just flat. And then when you defrost them, you just set them in the bottom of your sink, zipped up. You got to get the good brand. Okay, don't get the cheap brand of those, because when you defrost them, you don't want them to fall apart. But you just set them in the bottom of your sink for a minute. And then once they're soft enough, you cut the top off and break it up into your bowl, and it defrosts really pretty quickly because it's frozen and thin flat mounts. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like in a big flat baggie? Use the big freezer safe kind. So different things like that. Or you can even do the little freezer safe Ziploc and Glad, you know, twist caps, because they'll freeze and they can go straight to microwave. That still makes me a little nervous. So sometimes after it gets a little soft, I just pop it into a porcelain bowl, because you just never know how your plastic's going to love that, the freezer to microwave. And there's this new word out there. Have y'all ever heard of obesogens? You might be hearing about it more. This is little new research stuff about things that are in our foods, or chemicals and different things that might be linking and causing the obesity, somewhat like carcinogens cause cancer, that aren't even food related, and it could be plastics and all these different things. So just, if you have the glass and the porcelain, just use it most of the time and save those others for when you're in a pinch, okay? Until we get more research on that especially, and it saves you some money, so you can buy new Nikes to go do that 10K that you've been wanting to do once you get all fit. Or 5K, wherever you want to start, okay? If you have a refrigerator at work, stock it up with those little flat frozen filed soups, whatever it is, okay? A healthy snack on hand to help you stall until you get home to a healthy meal, okay? If you're out of time, that doesn't mean you have to get the whole fast food whatever. You can get the little walnut apple salad until you get home 20 minutes later. You will not perish between then and there. We always think, I'm starving to death. No, you just get that little thing and get home and make a wise choice, okay? You don't always have to just, oh, well, this is my only option. You have options, thankfully. Okay? But let's focus on the do's. Refuse supersize. Refuse, tell your very patient server that you've already talked with, please do not bring me a refill. This is it for me tonight. I'll let you know if I need some water. Period. If you're going to get that sweet tea on a very rare occasion, or the Sprite or the Coke or whatever it is that you know is going to take you 30 minutes to burn off on a brisk walk, then if you're going to do it, definitely don't do it 3 times, because you know he'll fill it up when you're not looking, and you'll think it was just one. Okay? Y'all know how those like drinks that never go down, but you feel like, I'm not thirsty. How did that happen? Okay, they're such good servers and patient. So ask them to bring the sides only with your meal. Okay, if you're with people that you love, tell them, if you can, at our family parties from now on, since we've done so good as a family team, lean team, or whatever it is, let's not put all the tins and goodies out starting in the morning. Let's wait and do that for a 20-minute snack period and then put them all away. Let's make some new family decisions that at holidays and weekends, we'll be on our feet a lot of the time outside in the front yard with a football or a frisbee or a kickball or whatever it is. We're going to do some different things besides watch TV and movies together on holidays and different things. Things that require people to move because we want everyone in our family to stay strong. Okay, so start some new family routines. Okay? So just remember, some of these are just reminders, and portion control is really important. Split it, save it, take it home. And I hate to encourage you to waste it, but I'd rather you waste it than waste you. Okay? And I like this. It's true that if you eat it, it won't be wasted, but it will be saved securely in your fat cells. So you're very conservative and kind to do that for your fat cells if you refuse to waste that last strip. Okay? In the real world, people drink most of their calories. About 50% of America's sugar calories come from Cokes and sodas and sweet teas and Gatorades. And people think Gatorade's good for them. Gatorade's for people who exercise for more than 90 intense minutes at a time. How many of you do that every time you exercise? Oh, okay, well then nobody in this room needs Gatorade. Okay, that's to replenish the electrolytes that you have lost after you've sweat out everything you had in you. Okay, so those are for rare occasions like that. Please don't use those as a beverage, because all those calories have to be burned off. Or what does your body do? It says, we can't do anything with these calories, but I have a secure place to store them. And it puts it in this little spot, wherever it is for you. Okay, so we don't want to just keep having those things. It takes 13 miles of brisk walking, which we don't really have time for on a regular basis, to burn off 1 tall glass of orange juice. I guess this was a row, but it all spilled off the page. I'm sorry. 1 tall glass of orange juice, 1 Frappuccino, 1 sweet tea with 1 refill at dinner, and there's also 1 Coke off the side of the screen somewhere. Is that worth it? I mean, some of you, all you care about is your beverage, and your food it doesn't matter. And if that's you, then that's going to be tougher for you. But for a lot of us, like for me, if I have a drink, I don't consider that food. It didn't feel nourishing to me. Like if you asked me, did you have a snack today and I had a glass of juice, I would say no. But if I had an orange, I would say yes. Okay, and there's these studies that show like if people are given jelly beans as a snack versus the same amount of sugar from a Coke as a snack, and then they're questioned, did you have a snack? They'll say yes on the jelly beans, and they'll say no on the Coke, but their body will treat them both the same. And later in the day, if you've chewed for that snack, your body will be a little less likely to eat again as soon and different things like that. The research really shows that. It's really interesting studies that show if you just drink in between, your body doesn't really count that as food. And a lot of times if we don't sit down with a fork, we don't count it as food. People say, I didn't have lunch. All I had time for was a Snickers and Coke. I'm like, oh, that's the same calories I had for lunch. And I had a big plate of food with a fork. So it felt like food to me, but it might not feel like food if you just eat it and eat real fast and it costs, 99 cents twice in the vending machine. But it is food. Your body will count it. It may not be nourishing as much as you want, but it will give you the calories that you may or may not need at that time. Okay? Snacks are another thing that happens in the real world. Now, I need y'all to know that I think snacks are awesome, and I hope you all have them. But I need to make sure we define snack the same way, okay? So, snack. Then you guys can answer this question. A, is it anything at all that I eat when it's not mealtime? Okay? Anything I get from the vending machine. These are how most of my clients and patients define snack. Something that is salty, something that is sweet. Anything I eat standing up or on the go or in the car. Whatever I can find in a 100-calorie pack. Okay, these are most people for snacks. This is more what I think. It's a food to help hold me from one balanced meal to the next balanced meal without getting crazy and doing crazy things when I get too hungry. That's what a snack is for, okay? And it's an opportunity to get in nutrients that I didn't have at my last meal. Like sometimes I don't eat fruit with lunch or dinner because it just doesn't go with my grilled chicken and baked potato and apple. It just doesn't go. So sometimes you don't do it. So that's your opportunity to get those in, okay? And if your mind all your life, your snack, and you've taught your kids this too, your snack means this is when you have your candy bar, this is when you have your bag of chips, you have to start over on that one, y'all. Because that little window can undo all the really great meals you stood there and cooked. Okay, so be really careful. And definitely if you have children or grandchildren, don't say it's snack time. Okay, if this is what snack time sounds like, okay, every time you have a snack at your house, if this is what it sounds like, and then you got to rip something open, that's usually trouble, okay? Don't you know what I'm talking about? What do you get out of packages like that? Oh, look, an apple. No. You know, like, just if it has all that crinkly stuff, a lot of times that means it's something salty and sweet that just makes you want another one. And do I think just an apple's enough for a snack? Not if you're going from 12 to 7. That's just going to set you up to do crazy things and be hungry. So it might be that you have a little bowl of cereal. It sounds like a lot. Well, it's a lot less than two cups of ice cream at 10 p.m. because you didn't get enough earlier and then your brain's tired and you make poor decisions or you're too hungry to think straight, okay? So sometimes it's worth a little 200-calorie half a sandwich to save you from a 350-calorie poor choice at the end of the night when you're tired and weak in the brain when it comes to decisions, okay? So be so careful about snacks. It keeps you from going for more than 4 hours without eating, okay? If you go more than 4 hours regularly without eating, then A, you need to be more active, or B, you need to put something in between there and eat a little more often, or C, maybe you just ate too much at that one meal that it carried you over for 7 hours. If a meal can carry you over 7 hours, you probably ate too much or you probably sat too still between that period. Or maybe you're on a medication that affects your appetite and you still have to tell your body to eat healthfully. You don't go 7 hours without eating and think your body's not going to make your metabolism mad and suffer, y'all. Don't do that. That's not something to celebrate, okay? That's what I see people for at the Y. Almost everybody I see is somebody who came to me who tried this, tried that, tried this, tried that. All these too low calories and too stuff, and we have to try to fix their metabolism, which isn't always doable. Okay, so please do not, whatever you do. And you know, there's a place that someone just told me they went, and they told them to not eat anything past 3 o'clock. I was like, I'm going to have to go pay a visit to these people, and y'all know I will because I don't think that's funny. And they also told them don't ever eat fruit past 3 o'clock. And it's not a dietitian, of course, because you know legally dietitians can't talk like that because we get in trouble. And they're going to get in trouble too. Sorry. But you know, that stuff is bad, bad advice. Okay, so don't do these crazy things. Do I think eating like 10 servings of fruit's a bad idea? At the end of the night, sure. But having like an apple with your dinner, those 60, 70, 80 calories full of fiber and water, that's not a bad idea. So be careful with these really rigid things that some people tell you to do. Choose food with protein or fiber at all snacks. Always do that, y'all, because that helps hold you. Protein or fiber or both even. What's something like that? Like, how about pretzels and grapes? Good snack, bad snack? Good for you will hold you maybe an hour. So if it's at 3 o'clock and you're trying to make it to 7, not the best choice. Okay? Because it doesn't have hardly any fiber. Doesn't have any protein. Not bad food. Just got to think about the rest of your night. Now, if you only have an hour and a half to go, that's not a bad call. Okay? Good. Greek yogurt's a great one because it's got protein. What could we put in it that has fiber? A couple sunflower seeds, have a little apple with it. Gosh, that's a lot of calories though. That's a 200-calorie snack. Well, I'd rather you have that on this end of the day than make up for it at the end of the day. And that's just really what I see people do the most often. Now, if you are never susceptible to that and you go to bed at 9 o'clock and you eat dinner at 6 and you're never tempted after dinner, then you're not the norm, and that's awesome. That is a blessing, because most people really struggle there. But if that's you, then you don't feel like you have to add that towards the end of the day. Never eat straight out of a box or a bag. Like, I almost want to pinky promise y'all all at the door on your way out that you will never, ever eat straight out of a box or a bag. Because I myself, and you've probably done this where your knuckles hit the bottom and you're like, who else had this with me? Somebody say they had some of these with me, and they're like, nope, you did that all by yourself. Okay? And you know, I got to tell you, gas station bags are not single serves. Those 99-cent bags, they're not family bags, but they're not single serves either. They're tricky. They might have 5 servings in them. They might have 4. Like the Fritos bag at the gas station is like 1,400 calories. Because Fritos aren't fluffy. There's no air in there. And then the ones that do have air, they make bigger bags so they can put more in it. But it's not the grocery size bag, so you think it's just for you. Look on the back. Look at the label. See how many servings it has. Don't set yourself up for trouble, okay? Don't do that. Y'all have worked too hard. Okay, is everybody going to pinky promise me on the way out? You're like, oh, I'll think about it. I don't even know you, so I'm not touching your pinky. You might be thinking that, but seriously, think about these things that have got you where you are and that you don't want to go back, y'all. I really don't want you to. I want to see you here next year. I want you to be that person that comes up on the stage and gives a testimony, though, not that just has to start over, okay? A splurge. Okay, who will splurge again in this life? Yes. Let's just plan it. Let's just go ahead and plan it. Let's say on my birthday, I'm going to have this. Or on my anniversary, I'm going to have this. Or in 2 weeks from now, when you go on this cruise, you're going to have this. Are you going to have a cruise week, 7-day splurge? No. No. Please do not do that. You know what? My mother-in-law and sister-in-law and friend who have all lost a good bit of weight since January are all on a cruise starting tomorrow. And they are going to take a picture of every meal and post it on my Facebook page. They promised me they would because I love them and they have done so good. For the first time, they've all done really, really well. And they've all decided as a group, with my encouragement, to do that. And they're just going to take a picture of the meal on a smartphone and post it so we can all celebrate with them how good they're doing. And that's going to be good, y'all. Use your social marketing for good stuff. I think it's going to be good because cruises get people in trouble. Keep me in business. Okay, we don't want to have that kind of business, y'all. Be careful. And sometimes it's a weekend and whatever it is for a splurge, and we don't splurge the whole weekend. Okay, you splurge at maybe dinner. Okay, well, what's a splurge at a dinner look like? Maybe you like wine, and you like appetizers, and you like desserts, and you like bread, and then you like your meal. Which is your splurge? You don't splurge on all of them. You don't say, this is a nice dinner. Unless you can, and you may be one of these people too that's not the norm, that can have 4 sips of that and 3 bites of that. And if you are that person, that is awesome because most people aren't like that. And if you can really do that, then you can have all of the above. But make sure you can really do it before you order them all and have them look at you and say, eat me, you know, because that's what they do. So does that mean you should never have pizza again because now you've done Team Lean, you're never going to have pizza again? No, pizza is now a side. It's not the main thing. It's not the main course. Okay, it's now a side. So most of your plate is filled with something pizza is not, which pizza has bread and meat alternative, which is cheese and fat, and sometimes a little bit of meat on top. So what's missing? What goes on the rest of your plate? Veggies and fruits. And they fill your belly up with all that heavy water and starch so that you can have 1 or 2 pieces of pizza instead of 4 or 5. Okay, so now pizza's not out, but it's not like a pizza and Coke meal and that's it anymore. Okay? So you can still have it, you just got to work it in. And you want to get the thinner crust without all the dessert pizzas and stuffed crusts and all that extra stuff. And if you're going to do that, have 1 piece on a day you exercise a good, hard bit, okay? And when I say controlled settings, what do I mean? Like maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you have a toddler that eats with you. Is that a controlled setting? No, because then you eat their food and whatever's on their plate, you eat it, and they don't see you, and they don't say, Mom, you should not have done that. Okay, what is a good controlled setting? Somebody raise your hand and tell me what a controlled setting is. Somebody from the back that I haven't heard from. Where's some place you could eat something that's dangerous? Y'all aren't going to make me talk a whole hour and not say a word, are you? What?
All you can eat. Buffet.
Okay. What do you think? Dangerous. Very dangerous. If you have to go to one, just pretend you have one plate option and you're never going to get up again. And just go once. And then you're done. Don't let yourself get up again if you have to be there because it's, you know, your grandma's birthday party or something. But you have to grin and bear it. What else? What's a controlled setting that you do well? Yeah, people that hold you accountable, people that have seen the good progress that you've done, not those people that say, you deserve it. No, you do deserve a bite, but you don't deserve to have to work all that off and undo your good work. Those people are confused. Don't listen to that, okay? You deserve that new pair of Nikes, yes. You deserve money towards a gym membership or towards something that's healthy for you, and you deserve to share that piece of brownie with people, but not to have the whole thing with the a la mode and everything else. Just be so careful, y'all, with those huge servings because they're so tempting. Okay, if chocolate is your very greatest temptation and your most favorite food, raise your hand. All right, among chocolate lovers, I'm a safe place. Buy a bag of Hershey's Kisses on sale after Halloween, but keep them in the freezer for a time of need. No. Somebody has learned that lesson. I have learned that lesson. Do y'all know what foolish thing I did? I saw these. Did I tell y'all what my favorite food is? My favorite temptation? Okay, Reese's. At Valentine's, you know those ones that have hearts and they're so cute? I haven't bought Reese's in a long time, but I thought, I'm going to make Valentine's cards with for my friends. I'm going to glue one of those on there, and it's going to say, I heart you, or something so sweet. Isn't that a good idea? No. Did I get those to my friends? No. No, that was a bad idea, y'all. Okay, these are not things we do. These are things we do not do. Lesson learned, okay? That by the time you're on your way home, you're like, how many friends did I have on that list? There's about 60 in the bag. Certainly not 60 friends. Okay, probably, you know, and you start getting silly. All right, when you make brownies at home, try to get your friends and family to eat them all up so you don't have to. I do see people do that a lot, but a lot of times our friends and family are in a similar place that we are, so we don't really want to force food on them. Okay, my rule is I eat the brownie in a safe place. I don't really make them at home that much anymore. Because when I used to bake a lot, I used to eat a lot of baked goods. You know? That just happens. When you eat it and it's hot right then, you're smelling it coming out of the oven, it's more tempting. You eat more of it, then you have some in the next day. So have it in a place where it doesn't come home with you the next day. When you buy your kids snacks for a special event at school, buy only the single servings, one for each of them and one for you. That's a good idea. If you have to buy something for the kids, buy it in single servings. If there's 18 kids on the team or 14 kids on the team, buy the 14 pack or the 18 pack. Don't just get a bunch just in case there's more kids on the team, okay? Because then they go home with you, all right? Get the sale 10 pack of Hershey's and eat them all at once so you don't have to look at them anymore, okay? Call your team and tell them, since we all lost weight this week, let's go to Brewster's together and celebrate. No. Okay, because at Brewster's, I think what used to be the single cone is now a double or a triple. Like, I remember one time I got one and I was like, oh no, I asked for a single. She's like, this is a single. I'm like, I saw you scoop that thing 3 times. That's a single? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to see the double because that's trouble right there, okay? Tips for chocolate lovers. I love the 25-calorie hot chocolate because it makes me feel like I'm having some chocolate. I get some calcium in. It doesn't have hardly any calories. It's good. Kroger's no longer has it. I've not seen it there. And if they have it, they don't have it at the Evans Kroger anymore. But there are a couple out there that still have it. And if they don't, they have the 50-calorie one. For those who are chocolate lovers, sometimes it's worth it to have a little something like that. Try a single-serve chocolate pudding or a mini ice cream sandwich. If you're one that's going to unwrap all the ice cream sandwiches, then that's not the safe one for you. But if having it in a wrapper helps you, then do that. Try a bar like Fiber One or something that has a little chocolate in it. Or even the little skinny Kudos bars, they're only 1,000 calories. No. They're only 100 calories. Do I think they're health food? No, but they're only 100 calories and they have some gooey chocolate in them, as long as you won't unwrap more than one. Okay, and you know yourself. Have some chocolate skim milk. A couple chocolate covered almonds or something like that, because it's mostly nuts and you can fit it into a meal on a day that you didn't have that much fat, and think about it. You think about it. A teaspoon of chocolate chips in your yogurt, that's a really good one. You get the real dark chocolate chips, the mini ones, and just put a teaspoon in your yogurt. That makes you feel like you're having something fun, but it's not that many calories. Or melt dark chocolate and dip 2 or 3 strawberries in it for a special treat. Sometimes you want to make that with other people around who will keep you accountable. That might not be a smart thing to melt that or have that at home. Okay? So wrapping up here, And I hate to pick on the out-to-eat food, but that's usually where a lot of the trouble happens. Hopefully you're not buying those foods in the grocery store that most tempt you. If you are, tonight's the night. You go home and you get them all out of your house. Okay? And you don't bring them to your teammates or anything. You take them, actually I know where to take them. You can take them to Grace Baptist where they have packaged foods for the summer for kids who can't afford food except during the school year because they get most of their good foods there. Even the not so healthy foods, unfortunately, are easy to serve for kids who are not with their families during the week, during the summers. Because their parents go to work and a lot of them they just need it really low maintenance. They're too young a lot of times to manage a lot of things. So that's where I bring some of those things when people bring them to me and say, I know this is bad for me, I shouldn't have bought it. I say, okay, I'll just take it there. Or somewhere like that where they have some of these special things going on. But don't, you know, or throw it away if you're comfortable with that, or take it back to the store and credit it and get you some good fruit or something. If it hadn't been that long. Okay, Five Guys fries. Y'all, fries, Five Guys. I don't know if anybody in here works there or owns it. Please don't be offended. I know you don't make them that way. But 620 calories in the regular fry. That's more than a normal meal should be. And that's just the fries. Okay? It takes bicycling for 1 hour and 35 minutes to burn off just the fries. Okay? Smoothie King. 560 calories in the Slim and Trim. Now, if that's your whole meal, that's not too bad. Okay? But if it's kind of a drink with your meal or kind of just a fun treat, that's too much. That's too many calories. Doubles tennis for almost 2 hours to burn off, okay? Here's this one, Starbucks 410 calories, cinnamon dulce latte, whipped cream, venti. Jogging for 50 minutes. And if you pair it with their little banana bread, it's exactly 1,000 calories. It's not even a meal. Probably you can eat the banana bread in 5 minutes and sip the coffee. So just be careful. The Panera Choco 440 calorie Choco Chipper. Chocolate chipper cookie is what they call it. Okay, y'all, that's a lot. That's a whole meal's worth of calories almost, and that people don't usually eat that for their meal. They put that on the side. That's a lot of walking. There's the banana nut loaf that pairs with the coffee to make almost exactly 1,000. Swimming for over an hour. That's hard. Y'all, I'm not good at that. Can anybody in here just swim for over an hour really well? That's a lot, all the kids. They're like, I love it. That's hard. I'm not conditioned to that because I'm not in the pool that often, but that's hard work. So if it's worth it to you to do those splurges occasionally, just make sure it's in a really active day and in a really controlled setting. If you decide you want to have a portion of it, that you only have that portion. So no, you don't have to weigh and measure everything, but I suggest you go home and put it on your calendar the first week of every month for the rest of the year, and your team to be accountable with you on this, to write down everything you eat. Put it in one of those MyFitnessPal computer type programs so it spits out, and even exchange the totals with your group, with your team, or with a friend. Those are really helpful. Do it and some of my clients that I've had for a while, every once in a while, I'll tell them, okay, it's time for you to do a food record for a week. And they're like, wow, I haven't done that in a long time. I'm doing good. Then they always tell me afterward that they realized this and this and this, and they're so glad they did it. Okay, because it's eye-opening what we put in our mouths if we don't keep record of it. So measure those certain foods that are most likely to get you into trouble. Always eat them out of the same bowl. Okay, this is a good one. This Ziploc plate is kind of like that Mickey Mouse plate that I told you about, that I liked for those who were here in the first week. But it has this little cup right here, and it's exactly a half a cup. It's exactly 4 ounces. So if you fill that up with what you know you should only have that much of, then you know it's measured. Okay, this one is 3/4 cups, and this one I believe is 2. This one's 2 3/4 cups. So that would be for what? Salads, veggies, things like that. This would be for your starch, and this would be for your lean protein. And then you'd be done. That'd be kind of like that Mickey face plate. Okay, or you could switch the starch if it was, you know, the starch and the protein, it depends on what you're having and where they go in there, because those aren't exactly the same. Or you could eat off of these plates. You can tell we have 2 boys and 1 girl. Okay, big brother, little brother, baby sister. These are literally the plates that my kids eat off at our house most of the time, not because they're on diets, just because it's easy and everybody knows that they're getting all the things they need, and we do too. And so it's just a good way to do it. It's not just for occasions. It's just a lifestyle where most of your plate is veggies. Okay? And you measure those other things sometimes. So brands vary. Watch out for that. Too much of a healthy food is still too much. Okay? Because your body has to do something with it, so it'll store it for later securely in your fat cells. Okay? How you eat, too fast, too often, you end up eating too much. So maybe slow down how you eat. That makes a big difference for a lot of people. Have y'all ever eaten with chopsticks and eaten way less than you would have if you had a fork? Yeah. I've done that. I mean, 'cause especially I'm not good at it, so I'm like, oh. another bite. But you know, some people can finish all that food at Miyabi's unless they have chopsticks. So it might be a good idea to eat chopsticks from now on forevermore. Maybe we're onto something. Maybe we should all eat all of our meals with chopsticks. Okay, how much is as important as what you eat? Here's the foods that get people in trouble the most, besides junk. These are the kind of okay, good for you, or somewhat good for you foods that get people in trouble. Nuts, peanut butter, cheese, starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes, corn, things that aren't bad for you. People just eat too much of those because they're very dense in calories. Rice and bagels also fall in that category. Not bad for you, but easy to overserve because of the density of their calories. So just be careful on that. Okay? Remember how I told you to measure and record everything for that week? Get in that habit of doing that. And go ahead while you're at it to plan exercise events with your team. As you get close to the end here, decide as a group, let's do this 5K, and let's go skiing on this thing, or let's do this on whatever it is. On these summer holidays where normally we used to sit around and do this or that, let's go do this or that. And plan active things that are now new parts of your lifestyle rather than just being sedentary, because that's a big part of it. Okay, so I want you to think about this. I'm going to read this to you just kind of to help you think through something. So pardon me as I just read it straight, and then this is going to be our wrap-up. Okay, what you do every day counts. You can read along with me. Keep it up. It will get easier and easier. Soon enough, you'll have labels memorized. You'll have a rotating menu plan that you can shop for with your eyes closed. Okay, you might find yourself signing up for those 5Ks. You might be able to make it up this Warren Baptist flight of stairs without using an inhaler, because everybody always huffs and puffs at the top of those. You might find that you spend your McDonald's money on a new bike or on an active trip. You might cook healthier dinners for friends over at your house instead of always meeting out. You might find clothes shopping in the section of the store that you always wanted to find yourself in forever. You never go back to the other. You give those clothes away instead of just keeping them in the back of the closet for later. Don't plan on later, okay? Trying foods you always said you hated because you haven't tried them in 10 years. Maybe you'd love them now. I love foods that I didn't like before, and if you cook it differently, you might like it. Okay, you might even be accused of not even having to try to look so good. Oh, you know him or her. They did Team Lean 2013. Now it's all easy. Always looking good, always at the gym. That's going to be you, okay? You can do this. But remember, your success all depends on today and tomorrow, and every time you're faced with the question, is it worth it? And you have to decide. So you've come so far, and I really do hope, and not that this is our wrap-up seminar because we have a handful more, but this is the last one I'll be doing through this session. So for this month, so I want to make sure you guys have that mentality to succeed and to carry on. So please do that. If you feel stuck, please check in with me, and I would love to do a one-on-one appointment with you at the Y. We can also do that as part of a personal training package if you need a little exercise help too. Thank you guys so much for coming. Have a good night. And I'll be here for a few minutes for questions if anybody has any. All right?